Today on the show, we have Alan Maybury. Alan started his professional career at Leeds United before making a list of appearances for massive clubs. He also represented his country multiple times. Please welcome Alan Maybury. Hi Alan, thanks for joining us. I appreciate your time. You've had an impressive career, played with some massive clubs, as well as representing your country. At the performance philosophy, we try and encourage kids to build good habits and have a strong mindset. What's the one mindset shift or habit that's enabled you to have such a successful long career in football?
I think you need to back yourself. Somewhere along the way, you're going to get knocked. You're going to get, I think every club have been released, not had my contract renewed, sacked as a manager, sacked as a coach, and you have to back yourself. I would say if I can get my foot in the door, I'll back myself to get a contract somewhere. When I played, it's a little bit harder as a coach. You have to go and kind of convince some people. But I think if you don't believe in yourself, I think others, will give up on you along the way. Some coaches will like you, some won't. Some clubs will like you, some won't. You know what I mean? But the constant, consistent is you, and you need to kind of back yourself. If that's what you want to do, you're going to have to take the knockbacks because there's going to be plenty. And keep getting up.
At what age did you start thinking, I'm going to back myself? Because obviously that doesn't come right from the bat. It's like it's experience and building resilience and sort of keep chipping away at it.
I'm not sure. It's like I'm one of 8 kids. I've 4 brothers.
Right.
So you have to stand up for yourself. Probably played with older boys a lot. Mm-hmm. So again, you get kicked around a bit. You got to get up. Do you know what I mean? Came from a generation when broke my arm. My mum told me you'd be all right. Get on with it. Do you know what I mean? So there's no one thing. I think it's just how you're brought up. And listen, it's not the kids' fault today, but we can give them more, so we give them more.
Yep.
We do more for them, so we build less resilience. So it's hard. It's not their fault. Mm-hmm. But then when it comes to coaching, I need to get them to the same place from a different starting point, which is difficult. But as long as you're aware of that, because in the stadium hasn't changed, I don't think. People still come, pay their good money. They'll praise you if you do well, but they'll give you criticism if they don't. Mm-hmm. If you don't, and that hasn't changed in the stadium. So we've got to get to the same end point, but from a different start point.
Yep. So there's loads through your career we could talk about, but I'm going to start in basically when you started your professional career at Leeds. At that time, Leeds United had an unbelievable talent in their youth setup. What do you think made Leeds Academy so successful at promoting players into the first team, and how did that environment shape you and develop you as a young player?
So I went back to Leeds maybe 2015, something like that. My old youth team coach Paul Hart was gone back to the club, so I went down to see him and kind of chat about that, kind of how did my group do what it did. Yep. But he said it was a few years before that. They won the Youth Cup in 93, which is the first time they ever won it. They beat Man United in the class of 92.
Right.
They beat them in the final 4-1, I think, over 2 legs. So they just kind of, that group, they just managed to get them to buy into win at all costs. You want to win the game, mm-hmm. need to do this. By winning that Youth Cup, it opened the doors to be able to recruit better.
Yep.
So the likes of me, Harry Kewell, Jonathan Woodgate, Paul Robinson, they were able to go down and recruit these boys, and then they said we were just able to kind of point you in the right direction. Mm-hmm. But there was also a pathway. Howard Wilkinson was the manager at the time, and he was I made my debut at 17. Harry Kewell made his debut at 17. Other boys at 18 weren't afraid to put people in the first team. So that's so then let's say a top 6 Premier League team.
Yep.
And no problem putting 17-year-olds in the team. Then when George Graham took over, a young boy was maybe 19, not 17, but he put the 19-year-olds in the first team. So there was a pathway as well. But then we were just brought up on good habits. Say Paul Hart was the youth team coach, and along with Eddie Gray, who's a bit of a Scottish hero, and we were brought up on the standards of Leeds United when he played there in the 70s. And we were brought up that if you want to have a game of football, no problem, we'll win. If you want to work hard, where it work us, we'll win. And if you want to have a fight and a scrap and a battle, no problem, we'll win. And that's how I was brought up. I've never...
See, on that, what sort of things did they do to install that winning mentality?
There was consequences for things.
Right.
Like we played first years against second years every Monday.
Right.
So
playing against bigger physical players.
Yeah, so I was 17. My group, all kind of 16, 17-year-olds. We were playing against maybe 18, maybe 19-year-olds. And the first time we played them, they absolutely battered us. I don't like it's like a 5-a-side, but do you know what I mean? Like 8-0 or something. Do you know what I mean? And we pulled into the office and told what a disgrace we were. And do you know what I mean? We see that season we never lost to them again because we thought we're not having that again.
But do you not think good players and driven players adapt to the environment? That's why they need to be pushed and
But that's how it was. So that's where they go back to, like, they recruited what they felt was the best type of players. Knew we could kind of take it. But then that's a kind of a long way back of upbringing and how I ended up at that point, if you like. But just they knew then, kick up the backside. Well, we weren't going to get beat again. We weren't having that. Get the second years out of the way. They're in your way. Right, we'll get them out of the way. He's in my position. I'm getting him out of the way.
And do you reckon they did that on purpose and making you compete against each other to see who wanted more?
100%. We had a night out once before the Youth Cup final. The lies we were telling just to get out of trouble are ridiculous. Manager sacked us all, do you know what I mean? But then I'm sure they went back to the office and laughed and thought, do you know what I mean? Well, fair play for them. They all stuck together. So they used to tell us as well, this is where they poked and prodded. He used to tell us, if you find out you're lying, it'll be worse. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then, right, you need to get your story straight. What is the story, right? Nobody, like, this is it, lads. Do not mess this up. Do you know what I mean? Stick together, team. But you're also...
The team over the individual. Yeah,
but then you're also trying to get them out of your way, maybe, because the individual to get through for yourself. And that's where you need to have that mentality is not the right word. So I've learned this because more behaviours. So it's a learned thing, rather than a set thing. So you can adapt, you can adjust. It's a learned behaviour, but just that kind of mindset, if you like, to be focused. What is it you want to get, and what do you need to do to get there, sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? And I say they kind of poked us and prodded us. Even I remember the first year we won the League Cup. We beat Newcastle in the final, and then we had a meeting at the start of the second year. And I can remember it now. We're sitting in the meeting room. The manager, Paul Hart, he writes up on the flip chart, we're going to win the league. They hadn't won the league since Eddie Gray was a youth team player in the 60s, but we're going to win the league. We're going to win the FA Youth Cup, which they'd only ever won once in their history. And he went, we won it last year. I will win it again. We won the league. We'll win the League Cup. And we didn't win the League Cup, but we won the other two. Do you know what I mean? So we set out to do this. This is what we're going to do. And do you think this is how we're going to do it? And this is what we did.
Do you think, setting goals and getting obviously everything to be successful, we need everyone in the same, going in the same direction,
100%.
With the same goals. And do you reckon setting those targets and pulling them together made a big difference?
100%. And it was like, somebody messes up, we all suffer. Do you know, the second year we lived on the training ground, there was new kind of hostel, 2 to a room. It wasn't great because first year we were in digs. We lived in the chairman's old house with one of the coaches, a big plush 6-bedroom house, you know what I mean, a nice area of Leeds. Second year we were on the training ground, you couldn't get away from it, but it worked. Do you know what I mean? Jobs need to be done. I was in charge of the boys, so again, if jobs weren't done, so my job to get them to do the stuff. If that didn't happen, it was my neck on the line. Do you know what I mean? That type of thing. So
what sort of jobs did they have?
You were sweeping corridors, cleaning the showers, you were putting the kit away, putting the kit out. Do you know what I mean? Doing boots. But again, just discipline, teamwork. And do
you think that's something they should bring back into academies now, or a different variation of that?
I don't know if they do it in England. When I did youth development up here, we did it, and I would set it out. I'd explain to the parents, listen, boys are going to do jobs, 1, because we've made the mess, and 2, because it teaches discipline and teamwork and these things. No parent has ever complained when I've said this. You joke with the parents, by the way, he's quite good at hoovering, do you know what I mean? And he could be doing it at home. But I used to set out kind of what we're going to do. They used to do boots. But again, the first team players are giving you tips at Christmas. It's a lot of the big clubs now, they kind of separate the youth side of the building. And when I was, we were in and around the first team, see how they behave, see how they act. I mean, you're doing boots, bring their boots into the change room, bring the tea in, the trays rattling, you're thinking, I hope they don't speak to me, do you know what I mean? But you're in and around first team players and see how they act and behave. Chatting to you, they knew you. now there's maybe a little bit, you have to earn your right to go around the other side of the building or whatever. So, listen, I don't know what the rights and wrongs are, but I wouldn't change how I was brought up, if you like.
So at that time, again, Leeds, the first team was full of world-class players. Like, I looked at the squad, it's quite frightening. You've got Rio Ferdinand, Robbie Keane, Jonathan Woodgate, Viduka. There's loads of players. Who was most influential player within the Leeds team at that time, and what did you learn from them?
There was different ones. There was people like Gary Kelly, who was amazing for us. Like when we signed, I think a year earlier, he'd gone to the World Cup, with Ireland. But
was he captain Ireland at that point?
No, so he would have just been a young boy went to the '94 World Cup. I signed in '95, but he was like, he'd bring like the Ireland kit back from trips. He'd give it to the Irish lads. He'd give all his boots to the lads. What you want. Go and see the kit man. Order some boots. I'll pay for it. Patrick's Day. Come on, boys, we're going out. That type of thing. Look after us. It was amazing.
That makes such a big difference as well, especially like if you're moving away from home, etc. Having somebody that's looking after you.
Yeah, listen, amazing. Well, one night we ended up staying in his house because we got nowhere else to go. Do you know what I mean? So things like this, okay, his house. But then there was others like Lucas Radaby was captain at the time, but just against standards. David Batty, but even before that, Gary McAllister was brilliant. We'd be tidying up the balls. At the end of training, and he'd be like, "Oh." Whether it was for him or for us, I don't know. He's like, "Oh, just go down there and he ping balls to you." Do you know what I mean? Gary Speed was really good with us. Kind of that first lot of them. And then I say, kind of when you're in and around it, there was no bad eggs, if you like. Do you know what I mean? The team spirit, the camaraderie was like second to none. I've heard, other people who've were at Leeds at the time, sort of physio, for example. He ended up going down to Chelsea in England. He's like, you'll no get a better bunch of boys than that Leeds group. But at Chelsea, there was just something different to win, if you like. It's hard to put your finger on it. But like that Leeds group had everything, but just couldn't get over the line, if you like. But just like David Batty, like wouldn't think, like Lucas Radaby, David Batty, Gary Kelly, some of these, he wouldn't kick, I think twice, they're just kicking you up in the air. Like things were, like training was done right, competitive. But then, that's how it was and how it should be. Do you know what I mean? And then you add in like the top quality players, Robbie Keane, Viduka, Cool, it was endless. Michael Bridges, Huckerby, Rio Ferdinand, brilliant with us as well. First in the morning, last away. Did loads for charity, do loads for the young boys. Anything the young boys want, like couple of boys, we're going out in London, Rio. Do you know, I'll sort it out for you. Do you know what I mean? Or I'll get you in there. Do you know what I mean? It didn't matter. They sorted for you. So like, you'll meet a better bunch of boys and
so the guys like sort of Rio Ferdinand that went on to like big clubs like Manchester United and being super successful, winning like Champions Leagues, etc. Was there anything that separated them that you noticed when you were running around them in terms of how they conduct themselves training or their mindset?
No, I think like generally things were just done right, like laughing a joke, right? I'd say best bunch of boys, messing about, nights out, all that. But when it came to work, it was done right. Looked after himself, did the gym stuff, recovered right. Everything was just done right. David O'Leary was the manager. Was more of a manager. Didn't take a lot on the training pitch. He had Eddie Gray, Roy Aitken. Then Brian Kidd came in. So training was good. Was competitive. It was just that environment. But like there wouldn't have been too many bad pros. Do you know what I mean? It was just
the changing brand itself.
Yeah, and listen, it's top players do things right. Do you know what I mean? Players who are right at the bottom and just desperate to make a living out of it. Generally, work hard. It's the ones out in the middle who think they're good. There's a problem. Do you know what I mean? There's too many of them. But like at Leeds at that time, you'll find Joe a bad lad, or Lee Bowyer's another one. You'll outwork him. Listen, a few scuffles because people tackles it too hard, but it's that rather than nobody tackled. Do you know what I mean? It was competitive, but then the squad was ridiculous, like you say. So to be in and around it and hanging on and sitting on a few benches, done all right.
Suck it all in.
Sat in the best benches in Europe. You know what I mean? It's like just to be in and around in it. Like Olivier Decor was there at the time as well. Jason Wilcox, who's now running Man United, he was there. Nigel Martin was the England goalkeeper. Paul Robinson, who was in my youth team, became the England goalkeeper. Woodgate, Dewberry, Ian Hart, like Don Matteo, like it's endless, you know, the quality that was there.
See the sort of, you mentioned on the coaching back then, how much was focused on tactical elements? I know as the game, modern game now, it's like tactical, with every team set up a certain way and you can watch it, it's like patterns in the game. Was it like that as much back then?
No, not so much. Just some ideas, like you would do shape maybe on a Friday, say in the youth team or whatever. And listen, we played 4-4-2 at Leeds, but Bowyer played off the right and he was more centre midfielder, so he kind of played maybe in a bit. Then on the other side was probably a winger, so whether it was Kuehl or Jason Wilcox, so it was kind of just slightly offset, you know, midfield. So you could get three in the middle, you weren't outnumbered, but like Man United were playing 4-4-2 with York and Colo or something, do you know what I mean? So we'd have Viduka and Smith generally, or so it wasn't overly tactical. We played in Champions League, playing 4-4-2, you know, it didn't really change. We didn't drop an extra midfielder in or anything like that. But there was, you know, certain patterns, or maybe around the box, or, you know, bits of movement. George Graham did a lot of defensive work of, or kind of 10v10s or 10v8s, you know, playing against youth team and things like this. So there was definitely like shape, but not more, say, like now patterns or positional stuff. You just, like, it used to be senior pro told you what to do and you did it. Do you know what I mean? You learned, or you watched them, or like, I remember once training with the first team when I was a youth team player, and I held the line or something, and then I think they scored. Like, it was just a training game, and then Eddie Gray saying to me, "What you do that for?" I was like, "Because the captain told me to." He says, "Yeah, but you know that's not what you're supposed to do." Do you know what I mean? You know better than that, so kind of do what you're supposed to do, sort of thing. So you're brought up a little bit more like that. Kind of do things right, play properly. Do you know what I mean? Be competitive. Outwork, outrun. But less of the positional, you know, cleverness. Do you know what I mean, that there is now? But it's just different. It's just evolved. But there's I don't know, exactly new, like people playing like becomes three at the back and two mid for like 3-2-2-3. That's the WM formation from the 1920s. You know what I mean? It's things go around in circles. People are playing 4-4-2 again. Trying to get two strikers up. How do we do that? Like it's I don't think there's particularly anything new. It's just a new take on things, or trying things, or I say it's probably filtered down quite a lot of kind of even lower levels, you know, teams, you know, playing out from the back and different things. So
your percentage football.
There's a place for it, do you know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's about winning. So
nah, you're right. So the next question, playing for your country is every player's dream. What was your experience as an international player like?
It was amazing. I made my debut when I was 19. So at that stage, there was only maybe 7 or 8. I don't know how many's done it now, but I played 15, 16, 18, B, 21s and full all the time I was 19.
Impressive.
I'd say there's lots of people like say Robbie Keane didn't play 15s or, you know, skip straight to 18s and then straight into the first team. Do you know what I mean? So there's not many who've played every level. There wasn't too many B team games either. But I got called up late for a B team game and played and did really well, and then got called up for a senior game away to Czech Republic. And then I was in another couple of squads, and then kind of a Leeds who wasn't playing, I was injured and different things. I fell out of the squad for a long time. And then the manager changed, and again I got a late call up. Funnily enough, it was against Czech Republic again at home. So I got a late call up into the squad, and then someone pulled out, and then Brian Kerr called me to his room and says, "This isn't going to start you tomorrow." So kind of, I'm not even being in the squad, then I played well. And then I was in probably for the next couple of campaigns. Played a little bit, but again, I had Gary Kelly, who was ahead of me at Leeds, ahead of me. I had Steve Finnan, who was at Liverpool, Stephen Carr, who was at Tottenham or Newcastle maybe. And then I played left back a little bit, so Ian Hart, and he was ahead of me at Leeds. And John O'Shea was at Man United. so to get any caps, I did well. But again, just to be in and around it, how things were done, standards. I was in the squad when Roy Keane came back into the squad as well after he'd walked out. So he was a little bit more mellow, but, you know, again, just standards, things done right. Like, again, just watching him, he didn't do anything special, but he just did everything right. Do you know what I mean? And then, like how he trained, how he worked, do you know what I mean? It was just, again, you're just watching, learning.
How is he with other players?
Brand new, like, he was funny. Like, if you have a coffee with him, he's sit and tell you stories. He was I say he was a little bit more mellow because he was coming back into the squad. But in the games he was, you know, obviously quite demanding on that. But he was no, he was good. I say no issues with Joe and anyone, and I say there was none of the rants and things. I think he'd kind of been convinced to come back in with Brian Cage on different time, you know.
Do you know what I feel you need players in a team that are going to drive the standards, otherwise
100%.
how are you going to achieve anything?
And this is it, like at one point the coach isn't going to be there, it's going to be a different coach. So again, you know, players need to drive it. Do you know what I mean? It's your career, you need to do the best. If you know, take shortcuts and all these things, you might get away with it for a little bit, but somewhere it's going to count against you down the line. So no, you need good pros, you need people driving standards, you need things done right. And listen, we're supposed to enjoy it and it's supposed to be fun and all this sort of thing, but you need to know kind of when it's serious, you know.
Turn that switch on.
Yeah.
See, in terms of, so you're in an absolute space, you were so young making your debut, etc. Do you think you really enjoyed it at the time, or do you reckon it was just like surviving when you're first going to a new environment?
No, I think it was more like, I thought this is how it is, you know what I mean? This, like, I'd got into, okay, I played in Leeds first team at 17, but again, I didn't play again for maybe 18 months, something like that. I went back into the youth team, and then kind of next season I played in the first team a little bit, and you know, then played the B, you know, 21s B team, you know, just kind of making that progression. And thought this is, you know, gone from, you know, not believing maybe you'd be a footballer. My first ever game at Leeds was when Tony Yeboah volleys that win it and off the crossbar. So we were ball boy. That was first home game of the season, and you think, I can't do that. I'll not be a player.
Not many players can, to be fair.
So then, like, do you know what I mean? A couple of years later, or 6 months later, I played in the first team. To then, Joe, like playing regularly. I had some good games. I never probably really grasped it. And again, I remember speaking to Eddie Gray about this and saying, didn't take some opportunities I got given, and maybe I didn't get some I felt that I deserved. And he says, hey, if you don't take them, we stop giving them. You know what I mean? So that, like, it was ruthless. And maybe I didn't quite grasp at, you know, 19 or whatever, but up until that point you think, well, you know, it's all kind of going in the right direction, I'm progressing well, and then, you know, it stops a bit, and you know, then you have to work to kind of get back up, and people pass you out, and do you want to get left behind, or what level are you going to be? And there's a small window when you're coming out of the youth team to go in the first team. You like Woodgate or Kuhl or whatever, Alan Smith, they grasp it and, you know, hit the ground running, so they become Premier League stars. I probably didn't, so then, you know, I had to move away, came up to Hearts. You know, it's not the English Premier League, do you know what I mean? So had a good career, but not maybe the level I was gonna have, or potentially, or whatever, because maybe in that small window I didn't quite grasp, or didn't get, or didn't take, you know, the opportunity. And then, so if you don't, like at a big club like that, if you don't take it, you know, someone else comes and takes it. So it is ruthless, but it is, I say, a small window. But like looking back, you know, kind of what I was up against and whatever, I've done all right. So
I think at 19 as well, you're still a kid. You
don't think,
you don't think you are, but it's when you look back, you're thinking to yourself, like, you've probably, what age did you hit your peak in terms of when you were at your best playing?
I was probably at my best 26, 27. Definitely. I remember being, I was at Hearts, got in the Ireland squad, then I got moved to Leicester, moved down with Craig Levine, playing every week, and just that kind of, I think was at the end of that one. No, so I was at Hearts, then we went away with Ireland, 04, then I went down to Leicester kind of start of 05, so see that kind of year, 18 months, you know, I could do nothing wrong, do you know what I mean? You won't outwork me, felt the fittest, felt the most confident. I remember being in the Ireland squad, there was 4 games at the end of the season, and I know people had pulled out and, you know, their friendlies and things like that, but I was the only players to start all 4 games. And, you know, players that I would have perceived being ahead of me previously, I was ahead of them. Do you know what I mean? I was sharper than them. I was fitter than them. I was more confident than them. Do you know what I mean? So just at that period, just from playing regularly at Hearts, going away with Ireland, didn't really get a break, carried that into the next season with Hearts, and then I moved to Leicester. When I went to Leicester, I hit the ground running, you know, that type of thing. probably the spell there where it's just, I say it all just kind of fell together a little bit.
Yeah. So you've now moved into management. What's the most important quality you look for in young players that will set them apart from the rest?
Probably a willingness to learn and listen, especially the young ones. Try and not be too harsh with them, but I'm trying to drive standards. So not so much maybe with first team boys, but when I did underage stuff or work at the SFA Performance School now, just trying to get them in good habits of what's going to be for them going forward. But like I remember having a conversation with one player when I was down at Oldham saying, I understand what you do and why people like you or whatever, but what is your ambition? He told me, and I was like, yeah, but see what you're doing and where you want to go, they don't marry up. What you're doing now is not going to get you there. So what are you going to change? And I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, right? And they do it for about 6 weeks and then they go back to... So they'll never... So you've got to learn, you've got to change, you've got to listen. I'm here to help you. Like, I look at it, me as a coach, like if I'm Andy Murray's coach, the coach works for Andy Murray. So an individual, the coach works for the player. In football, they work for me, if you like, but I'm there to help them. So I'm trying to flip that. So what is it you need to do? What can I help you with? You need to work within my structures or whatever, but I'm here to help you. So try these things or change these things, but they've got to listen and they've got to try them and change because, and the ones that are prepared to kind of do that, we have a couple of young ones, even still in Albion now, I've no problem putting the young, really young ones in, but I've like 18, 17-year-olds playing, I've been involved in every game because they take on the instructions and what's needed. And that's so one, you've got to remember, like I'm trying to say this, as you go up the levels, the information comes more and more. So here's what you're supposed to do. Now you need to remember what they're going to do. What are you going to do later on? What happens if they do this? Set pieces that you need to remember in the 80th minute where you're supposed to be for, a corner or whatever else, the information. So you need to take on all that. You need to listen and you need to learn. And the rest of it we can work with. If they're trying to do some stuff, we'll try and improve it. But like attitude, application, energy, these are the first things I would look for. You bring that, and we can work on the football things.
So learn quick.
Not learn quick, but like you got to take the information in. I'm here to help you. It's not a criticism, but you've got to be like you have to have that kind of resilience. Things are going to go wrong. I hate to tell them. The level we work at, we're going to lose more than we win. So you're going to need to take the knocks and pick yourself up. But also, like if you're not bringing the energy and the enthusiasm, the effort, the football doesn't follow them. These are kind of non-football things that you need to bring first. And then the football stuff, we can tidy up. I'm not going to take you from not being able to control the ball to being, messy. But the environment will tidy you up. Training with better players, doing things quicker, seeing things quicker, looking for certain things. We can tidy all this stuff up. But see all the other bits and pieces.
Control the controllables.
Do the stuff I'm asking. Do you know what I mean? So even with my team, I'm asking for energy, effort, application, organisation. But these are kind of say non-football qualities. These are in between the ears. Do you know what I mean? So most of the game, right? If you can't play the game, you can't play the game. If you can, and you then can do all these other stuff, those other things will decide whether you are footballer or not. How good your technical ability will decide then what level. If you're really good technically, but you don't do all these other things, you'll be the best player in your mate's five-a-side team. And too many don't grasp this until later. So again, don't get outworked, don't get outplayed, fight, scrap, battle. Bring the energy, bring the enthusiasm, bring the effort levels every day. Do you know what I mean? I'll bring it. Like if I turn up and say, I don't know what we're doing training, do you know what I mean? They're going to quickly moan. So I'm expecting when they turn up, whatever level, this is what you bring. And I say these are kind of non-football skills. And then if you have the football skills, we'll tidy them up. Do you know what I mean? Or the tactical stuff will make the team better, or certain things and that. But if you don't bring these things first, do you know what I mean you're wasting your time?
How has your experience as a player influenced the way you manage young players?
Yeah, it's just kind of probably two stages to my career. Up to about 30, when I'm the last of the generation, you say jump and I say how high. Most of my coaches were tough, demanding. Craig Levine, Paul Hart, George Graham. They were in charge.
Yeah.
But that's how it was. You know what I mean? And there's no problem. And then Craig Levine left Leicester. His assistant Rob Kelly took over, and he was much more like, "What do you think, lads?" And but then I was 30. Do you know what I mean? So I was changing, and maybe it was just the right coach for me. And then as it's gone on, I'm definitely more understanding of the person. I definitely try and understand the person. I did some work with kind of business management guy. So like at Falkirk, we psychometric tested our players, like disc profile them, to see how they think, how they work. So trying to understand, I say again, those factors rather than football factors. So it's definitely trying to understand people. I think from a coaching point of view, I think if you're organised and you can give your team some confidence, you've got half a chance. I say we'll tidy up the football stuff. But I try and understand the person and try and engage with them a little bit to try and get a bit more out with them rather than just football stuff. So it's definitely different on when I played, it was like kind of just do this and you go okay. And now, but just maybe the world is what do you think? What you thinking here? Do you know what I mean? How do we do this? Asking questions to them. I say more the mental side of the game, if you like, the behaviour side of the game. The profile and stuff I've done kind of deep, and I've done emotional intelligence. So how do you think? How do you react to stuff? I really like all that side of it. So, but even working part time now, like kind of we've done quite a bit of research on like what the boys do for jobs, what type of jobs is that, I mean, what's going on at home. Trying to understand, there's kids on this way, there's boys with kids, boys who are doing manual labour, there's boys doing trades, so they're building sites, they're sparkies or whatever, so they're doing all this and trying to understand. We're trying to get a physical performance out of them as well. So having an understanding of what they're, not just saying, "Oh, one size fits all, and we're going to do this." You know what I mean? So that's definitely where it's changed. Where it would have been just like, roll up your sleeves and get on with it was the attitude. It's probably the biggest change. But again, we were speaking before. It's kind of just the kids today. We give them more, so they come. So it's not their fault, it's our fault. Do you know what I mean? But then trying to get them to the same point in the stadium, which hasn't changed, if you like.
And do you give them, like the younger ones, do you give them tasks away from training in terms of like whether it's stuff to go and work on with their mindset or stuff to work on technically or their fitness? Or...
I have done on some stuff, like just even simple things like goal setting. So where do you want to get to, right? So give me something that's going to help you get there. Right, so... You tell me, so I'm not telling you, you're telling me, right? So you're going to work on this, right? So what are you going to do to work on that? Right, we'll review this in 6 weeks and see if you've done it or not. Do you know what I mean? So you're telling me, and I'm here to help you, not the other way around, not like, oh, you must do this, and then they don't do it. So if you want to do it, right, we'll agree on something, but you set it out and...
they need to be accountable for that.
Yeah, that type of thing, or even just trying to get them to think different, like ABC, action, behaviour, consequence. So whatever the action is, if the behaviour is negative, the consequence is going to be negative. So trying to have a bit of fun with them, like kind of, even you'll remember ABC, do you know what I mean? So, I don't know, you miscontrol the ball, so that's the action. Then the behaviour, if you're, falling out with yourself, banging the ground, do you know what I mean, head down, well then the consequence after that, even me at my age, I'll run 10 yards off you now. So we need a positive behaviour, a positive consequence. So it's just trying to get them to think differently. With younger ones before, we've done stop, start, continue. Stop doing something because it's counterproductive. Start doing this instead. So you've got to have you can't just say stop because, do you know what I mean? They want to do, need to do something. So do this instead, but then finding something they do well and kind of continuing to do that. So that would be like the first thing we would do after the disc profile and stuff would be just kind of like your behaviours or your profile is saying this. You need to stop doing this. So for example, one boy I had, would never give 100%. Like, not consciously, but
Yeah.
he could always then, if he didn't play well, he could justify it to himself to say, well, I could have.
Yeah.
And then trying to say, right, me understanding that, but then say, no, you give me everything. And if we lose a game or it's not good enough, that's on me. No problem. We'll accept that. So trying to encourage him to give more. There was another player who was kind of fearful of going forward in case he gave the ball away.
Yep.
And then end up in like, but it never had happened to him.
Yep.
So it was like irrational. So again, encouraging him to play, go forward, and saying, well, if we give the ball away there's 8 players between there and the goal. So again, I'll take responsibility for that.
Do you think that's a programming from a young age in terms of playing with fear?
It can be. Listen, it's an upbringing thing. It's fearful mistakes, reaction to a mistake previously, or someone said something. Like, it can just sit with you, and trying to just strip some of these things back. But if you don't understand them, like, again, you can't shout at these kids who just they go into the shell or whatever. Some you can, some
react well.
Where some generally will sink in a little bit, but trying to then take some of that responsibility off them. Like even now with my first team, if I set out a structure or a tactic or something and they don't do it, I'm like, well, that's on you. So why not just do what I ask and see if it all goes wrong? I'll take the blame. Whether it's the board or the media or whatever, I'll take the blame, say I got it wrong today. So go and follow instructions. Follow instructions is a big thing. Trust is a big thing in the young boys. Like, I would pick a player if I think I can trust him. Or is he, and I've learned to love a Maverick, don't get me wrong. But they then need to produce, sort of thing. So even as a player, I'll do your work if you win me the game. If you don't do anything, what am I doing your work for? Do you know what I mean? So I've learned to love the Maverick, but go and follow instructions, especially the younger ones, but trying to understand them, trying to get them to think a little bit differently. And I say all these things again, I'm probably repeating myself, you strip all this back, these are non-football traits. Do you know what I mean? They're all, say, behaviours, learned behaviours, mindset, mentalities. No, I say correct term for this, but it's
growth mindset.
Or learned behaviours. Do you know what I mean? So everyone's reaction to things go wrong is disappointment. It's natural. But we need to learn to kind of deal with that and keep working. So you make a mistake in the game or whatever it is, you're naturally going to be disappointed, but we need to kind of park that and keep going. So it is a learned thing. And say kind of just the profile and the stop, start, continue. The ABC, the follow instructions, even taking blame for things. When we've lost the game, I got that wrong, lads. You know what I mean? And again, if they kind of believe in me and buy into me, again, we're all kind of moving forward together. So that's where it's definitely changed, rather than us, like finger pointing. Do you know what I mean? Shout. Now listen, I would still do it. Do you know what I mean? I try and do it less. I try and manage it. I try and do it less, but there is still sometimes a point, emotions or passion. Do you know what I mean? A blast is the best thing. Do you know what I mean?
See, in terms of, you don't need answers if you don't want. In terms of Scottish football, trying to get kids, a lot of kids go in academies now, and I think they struggle to find their first team. What do you think we should be doing differently that's going to bridge that gap?
It's really difficult. I think there's a structure problem. Like, there's up to 18s. So even a couple of years ago, it was 20s. So you went in the academy, I think it was 17s. You then, whether you got a full-time contract, so you probably get a 2-year full-time contract, which bring you up to under 19. So even in that, you're kind of giving them 6 months to settle in, and then they're getting a year, because with 6 months to go, we're deciding whether they're getting a contract or not. So it is a bit ruthless. But even then, if they'd done enough, you were getting another year up to under 20s. And then you were deciding, right, well, is he in our first team or is he in someone else's first team? Maybe go out on loan with a view to coming back. So even like you're able to play some overage players in that and different things. So it wasn't ideal, but it was better than now. It went to 18s, and it was 18s and reserves. And the reserves, some people have reserves, and then some of the bigger teams are trying to run a B team. But basically, like my boy is in the academy system. He's an April birthday, so he'll turn 18 in the April if he gets that far. And then the season will finish in May. So it'll be 18 in 1 month, and he's to go into a first team.
Yeah.
Whether he's ready or not. Do you know what I mean? That's the next step from.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a pathway problem in Scotland. There's a bit of fearfulness of putting young players in. I personally think they could be done more. I think there's opportunities to play some younger players, definitely. Like teams are spending a lot of money.
You used to have the homegrown rule.
Used to be a homegrown rule. Listen, it was good and bad. There was boys sitting on benches that weren't merited though either.
Yeah, true, yeah.
So like, there's no right or wrong. I played reserve team football, but it used to be you didn't play in the first team. You played in the reserves on a Tuesday or Wednesday.
Still
or
getting experience against men though.
Yeah, but it was a proper game of football. But now, because there's so many games, the way squads are run these days, if you don't play on a Saturday, you wouldn't necessarily play in the reserves on a Tuesday. Do you know what I mean? And it's just so that pathways is difficult at the top of it. The reality is 1 in 200 kids is going to be a footballer, right? So that's just an example. Because we're in Edinburgh, all the kids in Hibs and all the kids in Hearts Academy, one's going to be a footballer,
right?
A top footballer, right? So again, well, what are we teaching them? So, but they're getting opportunity to football at a very high level. They're learning the other skills of resilience and discipline and teamwork and things like this. So there's lots of positives. It's a big jump up, I would say, from boys football, like boys club stuff, grassroots stuff, to academy football is definitely different. And as you kind of go through the academy, it's very hard to come into that system quite late. Do you know what I mean? There is obviously some can miss it out, but generally if you take a kid who's not been in it, they can cope on some stuff.
Do you not think that depends on the academy?
It does. Like I've just seen it. I've seen a number of academies, and they're always looking for someone, kid at 14, 15, 16, he's doing well at one of the boys club, bring him in, a trial. Physically, maybe in cope, he can work hard, but see the technical element, probably be a little bit behind. Tactical element, probably a little bit behind. It's hard to catch that up really quickly. So it is, I think, difficult to come out, if you haven't been in the system now, to come into the system late. So there's no ideal. It's better in England maybe because there's more clubs, there's more full-time clubs. I don't know, if you end up at an Arsenal and it doesn't work out, you could go to Charlton or Crystal Palace or Leyton Orient or Wimbledon.
Well, the all league teams are still full-time jobs at the end of the day.
Yeah, but there's other things like, I don't know, if Harry Kane played up here, I'm not sure he'd be a footballer. He had 7 loans, it didn't go well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, true.
Would the clubs have been more as patient up here? If you go out on loan once or maybe twice and it doesn't go well, I'm not sure they keep you to try and get you in the first team. It might be, well, he's not really done it. Do you know what I mean? We'll end up moving on or whatever. So it's really difficult. I say the structure's not ideal up here. But then the number of kids actually becoming footballers, like you've got 20 full-time clubs in Scotland, there or whereabouts, with 20, 25 players. You're talking 400, 450 players. That's everyone. Do you know what I mean? But at first team level, if you like. So it's not a lot of people are going to do this. Do you know what I mean? You can then play part-time or whatever. So then you're another 400 or 500. So that's it. So there's not many people are doing it. There's a lot underneath it. And it's a pyramid system. So even when you get up it, there's a really good kid, say 18s, right? So midfielder. Are we giving him a contract? Well, actually, see the kid in the 17s? He's better. Oh, do you know what? The 16s ones, he's going to be a superstar. Well, we'll release 17 and 18 because we can't bring them all forward. So it does. There's a lot of kids, and it comes in and in and in. And again, the clubs need to run teams, but ultimately they're trying to produce players. So it's a numbers game, and you don't know, and I don't know. So of that 15 or 16 in a under 15 squad or whatever, which is the one kid they're hanging the hat on, but they need as many good players around him because he needs to play in a team. And then there's always one that will disappoint you and one that will surprise you. So maybe that superstar kid, something happens and
change your opinion as well, depending who's there.
A teenager and God knows what's going on in his head, and it's actually another kid's just passed him by and we didn't think that. So they're playing a bit of a numbers game. I'm not sure there's an exact science to this, but they're trying to give as many kids an opportunity, a possibility, to be that one to get through. But like all the academies here, they spend a lot of money. They need to probably see some sort of result at the end of it.
Yep.
But different academies do different things. I know some are like, the board will say, listen, we're putting quite a lot of money into the academy. We want you to produce technical players, but we also need to win. Do you know what I mean? So whereas others are saying, well, just produce the technical players.
Yep.
Others are saying, well, we're not getting first or even second choice of these players. So if we go, technical player against technical players, the bigger club's going to have the better ones.
Yep.
So what does a player at our club looks like? Well, he probably works hard and he's physical and he's big. So we'll recruit that now.
Yep.
So you might even think, well, they're not great, but they're trying to produce a player for their first team. What does that look like?
Yep.
So everyone's on a different path and journey. So it is hard, and then you need some success to kind of sell this as well. So, listen, there's been some good things in the last couple of years, but it's far from ideal.
And the last question, what's been the proudest moment of your career?
There's obviously a few in, when you play. Listen, see, my playing career is just something I used to do. It's a long time ago now, but like making a debut for Leeds, making my debut for Ireland, obviously proud. I played in a cup final with Hibs when I was 35. Getting promoted with Edinburgh, having only had the team for 6 games. But then there's just moments, things where things went well, but like they're the big ones, kind of things like that. And you never stop long enough to kind of look at them.
It's not until you reflect.
Yeah, but again, it's just kind of it's just something I used to do. I can't remember half it. You know what I mean? I'm now trying to coach and trying to, pass on some information, trying to, set a team up, trying to get boys to believe into, something, trying to help them.
Do you enjoy the coaching more or the playing more?
I love playing, but I love training. I love the whole environment. Like I would never moan about. I moaned a lot about in training.
Yeah.
But standards and things like that. But I love training. Like I can barely walk now. My Achilles are screaming. But it's like even joining into school, the little ones hobbling around with them. Do you know what I mean? I love it all. I never join in with Sterling. Don't try and embarrass myself. But like I like coaching. But I would say when I did my license and actually the organisation, the structure, the planning, I like all that. I like having responsibility. I've had a few coaching jobs where I got sacked by association. I work for whoever and they lost their job, so I go as well. And some of them I can understand, like I was assistant manager, so I understand that one. Others I'm thinking, I'm too low down. I shouldn't be getting sacked there. So I'm happy to put my neck on the line. But I know you then get it chopped off now and again. So that's no problem. I can live with that. I can live with, well, I messed up or whatever, and you get sacked. That's just what we do. But I just like the responsibility. So I don't think I need to be a manager. I could be like an academy manager or a director of football. Or I like the responsibility, the organisation, the planning, the tactical side more than say I can put on drills and things. But I much prefer, say, tactical training or trying to solve things. Even when I worked as an assistant manager, it took me a while to kind of work out my role because the manager did everything. And then I was like, well, the sports scientist, like I do this, and the physio's like I do. I'm thinking, what is it I actually do? But then just a couple of times, like I was assistant manager at Harry Keel down at Oldham. Right. But then it might be just like saying to Harry, listen, instead of being like a 1 and a 2 in midfield, be a 2 and a 1, and he change it and it work. And do you know what I mean? He gives me recognition for it. So just finding your role. So it's just, I like the tactical stuff and trying to work things out like that. Or, how do you get the upper hand against someone or whatever, more than say, a pass and drill or I'm trying to, it's got to be with a purpose sort of thing. So I like all that sort of stuff, passionate about it. Playing, you're quite selfish, you're trying to do the best for you. But then as like I said before, I'm happy being a team player, I'm happy doing the work. I didn't need a pat on the back. I knew if I played well or not, if the team won or lost or whatever, but I was happy to do, say, your work if you win me the game, that type of thing. Work in the background. I'm not one for the attention and things like this, but it's, I just enjoy now, say, the responsibility more than anything else.
Oh, thank you very much. That's been great.
All right,
great
no
insight.
problem.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
Perfect.
it.
Cheers. Thank you.